Tonight on ABC News Live Prime, the new extensive search for Nancy Guthrie launched by the FBI.
I'm Aaron Katursky from Tucson, Arizona. Agents have been going throughout this neighborhood here in the Catalina foothills where Nancy Guthrie lives. They're looking for any sign of her 11 days after she disappeared from this home.
All of this comes after a person was detained and questioned before being released. His car and home search, questions surrounding who is this masked person caught on camera at Nancy's front door still baffling. Airspace whiplash, the mystery over the FAA's sudden flight ban and reversal over El Paso, Texas, citing special security concerns. The Trump administration blames cartel drones out of Mexico. Sources tell ABC News the Pentagon was testing new drone laser technology.
You don't tell me.
Yeah, I did tell you because we saw what you did in the Senate.
You're not even a lawyer.
Attorney General Pam Bondi grilled by both parties over her handling of the Jeffrey Epstein files. Her reaction when asked to turn and apologize to Epstein survivors. Newly released body camera video in the case of a woman shot 5 times by a Border Patrol agent. Federal officials call her a domestic terrorist who attacked agents. What the video shows. She was once an anonymous R. Kelly survivor. Now she's standing up to reclaim her name and her power. And remembering the on and off screen legacy of actor James Van Der Beek.
Good night, Joy. Good night, Dustin.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is Prime with Lindsay Davis.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thank you so much for streaming with us. It is a busy Wednesday night. We begin with a dramatic 24 hours in the desperate search for Nancy Guthrie, the mother of Today host Savannah Guthrie. Tonight, the FBI launched an extensive new search for the 84-year-old north of Tucson, Arizona. Last night, a person was detained and questioned about Nancy Guthrie's disappearance, but was released hours later. His car and home were searched after a judge signed off on a warrant. The Pima County Sheriff's Office has received thousands of calls since the release of that chilling home security video, which showed an armed, masked person outside her front door. It's been 11 days since she was taken from her home. Authorities with no word on any possible new suspects. We have former acting secretary for intelligence at DHS and ABC News contributor John Cohen standing by to give his analysis. But first, here's our chief investigative correspondent Aaron Katursky in Tucson tonight.
11 days since Nancy Guthrie's abduction, taken from her home in the middle of the night, FBI agents tonight are fanned out across her neighborhood in the foothills of the Catalina Mountains, searching through the brush, along roads, looking for anything the man at her front door might have discarded along the way. It comes after a frantic 24 hours and what appeared to be the first major break in the case. The FBI recovered these images from her front door Nest camera. Google said it assisted the investigation. They show a masked man with what appears to be a gun on her doorstep. Just hours after that video was made public, authorities raced to Rio Rico, 50 miles south of Tucson near the Mexican border, where they questioned this delivery man for hours, then released him.
They told me I was being detained for kidnapping. And I asked them, like, well, kidnapping of who? And they told me this lady, I don't know her name. And
Nancy Guthrie?
Yeah, that's her.
Tonight, law enforcement sources tell ABC News the man who identified himself to reporters as Carlos had been on investigators' radar in connection with this case even before the public release of that video of a figure in a mask at Nancy Guthrie's front door. The sources tell ABC News the FBI wanted to speak with the man after using digital techniques, including cell phone usage information and traffic data. They obtained a warrant to search his car and his home before releasing him hours later without charge.
I work in Tucson.
Do you think you might have delivered a package to Nancy Guthrie's house?
I don't know. Might have been a possibility. I don't know.
Carlos, who did not reveal his last name, says he had nothing to do with the kidnapping of Nancy Guthrie.
I hope they get the suspect, because I'm not it. They better do their job and find the suspect that did it so they can clear my name. I'm be done. Just look at what I'm putting my family through.
Tonight, investigators are studying every frame of that doorbell video for any identifying detail, the potential weapon, the clothing, the backpack, his mannerisms, and what appears to be a flashlight in his mouth. And tonight, a closer look at this image that shows the man at one point did not have the backpack on, so authorities want to know, where was it?
We don't know if these were taken after the backpack was handed off to somebody else or dumped or put into a car. Or maybe just the light is so bad until he gets onto the porch that we can't see where the backpack is.
In the 24 hours since those images were released, investigators say they've received more than 4,000 tips.
When you throw up a picture out to the public, you're going to get literally hundreds, if not thousands, of leads, of which most of them won't amount to anything. But there'll be a nugget here and there that might well catch this guy.
Nancy Guthrie's daughter, Today host Savannah Guthrie, immediately shared those images put out by the FBI on Instagram, posting, "Someone out there recognizes this person," and saying of her mother, "We believe she is still alive." The FBI showed those images to the Guthrie family before they were released, and the Guthries did not recognize the man in the video. And tonight, the FBI is still trying to trace the sender of those 2 unverified ransom messages to local television stations that demanded millions in Bitcoin and set deadlines that have come and gone. The Guthrie family at one point promising to pay, but there was never any proof of life.
This is very valuable to us, and we will pay.
For 11 days now, investigators have been combing every inch of this quiet desert community. But tonight, still no one in custody, no suspect named, just a chilling image of someone at the door. And neighbors are praying and hoping Nancy Guthrie comes home. This woman's mother used to play tennis with Nancy.
Scary. I mean, backpack and just scary. I can't imagine anybody going in there and taking an 84-year-old woman.
Aaron joins us once again from Tucson. Aaron, with regard to that person who was detained, have authorities ruled him out as a suspect?
Lindsay, until someone's in custody, the sheriff here has said no one has been ruled out. But that man who was detained in Rio Rico briefly has been questioned. He has been released without charge. He is under no law enforcement restrictions tonight. Lindsay?
Aaron Katersky for us. Thanks so much, Aaron. There are questions tonight after the FAA's abrupt shutdown of the airspace around El Paso, Texas. Initially, the administration said it had to do with drones belonging to Mexican cartels, but sources now tell ABC News it was about the testing of a new anti-drone laser. Transportation correspondent Gio Benitez has those details.
Tonight, sources tell ABC News that the sudden shutdown of the entire airspace over El Paso, Texas, came from a dispute between the FAA and the U.S. military, which was testing laser technology capable of shooting down drones used by Mexican drug cartels. Just before 11 p.m., the FAA said that all air traffic, including emergency medevac flights, would be prohibited over El Paso and surrounding areas for 10 days, and that anyone not obeying the order could be met with deadly force by the military. The directive stranding passengers and confusing pilots and air traffic controllers.
So the airport's totally closed?
Apparently. We just got informed about 30 minutes to an hour ago.
So for 10 days, you guys are not open?
A source tells ABC News the FAA closed the airspace after learning that the Department of Homeland Security actually used the laser weapon earlier this week to target a balloon that was approaching or flying over Fort Bliss, which is close to El Paso's airport. The source says it was not a weather or spy balloon, but it's not clear just how big it was. About 6 hours after issuing the closure, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy reversing the order, posting that the FAA and Department of War acted swiftly to address a cartel drone incursion. That threat has been neutralized.
Gio Benitez joins us now. Gio, what are you watching out for next with this new technology?
So, Lindsay, clearly, as we saw overnight, communication is key between the FAA and the Department of Defense. And they're actually set to meet in just a few weeks about this new laser technology and how to make sure that they can implement it safely with aircraft in the air. Lindsay.
Gio Benitez. Thanks so much, Gio. ABC contributor and former senior DHS official John Cohen joins us now for his weekly segment, Assessing the Threat. John, when you were with the DHS, the counter-drone team, or officially known as the Counter-Unmanned Aerial Systems Team, reported to you. How abnormal is a public fight between federal agencies, and how should the issue have been handled ideally?
Yeah, Lindsay, what we saw today should never happen. In my time at DHS and working in the federal government, I was involved in the planning of numerous counter-drug, counter-terrorism operations here in the U.S. and abroad. And in the planning of these operations, the preparations of the operations, the implementation of these operations, and in the way that we communicated about these operations to the public, it always involved a highly integrated, coordinated approach, including all of the departments and agencies involved in the operation. And what we saw today is, quite frankly, what happens when that type of planning, that type of coordination doesn't occur.
The FAA took a drastic step here, abruptly ordering a 10-day closure of airspace around El Paso. Could that have been an angry overreaction, or might they have had good reason to fear that this new directed energy laser technology could accidentally threaten commercial aircraft?
So here's the issue. The issue is that in using this weaponry, it's designed to not simply blow up the incoming drone or unmanned aerial aircraft, but it can disrupt its communications, disrupt the control of that aircraft. It can even cause that aircraft to fly around in a haphazard manner. Now, this is a heavy airspace. That means there's a lot of commercial flights flowing through it, and you don't want to have a uncontrolled drone flying around and potentially striking a commercial airline.
As Gio mentioned in his report, Transportation Secretary Duffy reversed the FAA's airspace closure, saying that the FAA and Department of War had neutralized a drone incursion from a Mexican cartel. What do you make of that?
I mean, look, illegal drugs flowing into the country is a major problem, and it directly impacts our public safety, our homeland security. And it is a worthy cause, and I applaud the administration for trying to come up with a plan to curtail the activities of the drug cartels, particularly the Mexican drug cartels. And increasingly, these drug cartels are using drones to surveil law enforcement along the border so they can smuggle loads in on land and bypass law enforcement. And they're even using drones to smuggle drugs into the United States. And this has been a problem for over a decade. And we have not done a good job in coming up with a plan to counteract it. So the cause was worthy, as I said before. But as we've seen in other areas, it's not just how you talk about an issue. It's not just how you think about an issue. It's how you develop and implement an operational plan to deal with the issue. And when you don't carry out those plans in an effective, well-coordinated way, you see what you saw today, which is chaos, disruption, and potentially economic problems and increased fear.
I just want to pivot for a moment to the case of Nancy Guthrie. As Aaron Kotersky reported, there have been 2 ransom messages, yet no proof of life has been provided. What does that tell you?
Yeah, look, first of all, stranger abductions, kidnapping of adult and children that are for ransom are pretty rare in the United States. They happen in Latin America, they happen in Europe, they happen in other parts of the world. In the U.S., it's pretty rare. But they are complicated to investigate. They are complicated to solve. It's difficult to locate and rescue the person who's been kidnapped. And the complexity of these investigations have been made even more intense because kidnappers are increasingly using technology to plan these operations, to receive the ransoms in these operations, and to avoid detection by law enforcement. So what we're seeing here is that the FBI and local law enforcement are dealing with a highly complicated case, and we're hoping that they solve it soon and bring her back to safety.
We all are hoping that. John Cohen, thanks so much. Just coming in this evening, the House has passed the Save America Act, a measure backed by President Trump that would require mandatory photo ID and proof of citizenship to vote and restrict mail-in ballots. One Democrat joined 216 House Republicans to pass the bill. 213 Democrats voted to reject the controversial measure, which would strip states of some authority in the voting process. President Trump has argued the bill is necessary in order to protect the voting process. The House also voted this evening to repeal tariffs on Canada, a blow to the president's economic agenda. Both bills now head to the Senate. Attorney General Pam Bondi was grilled today by both parties on Capitol Hill over her handling of the Jeffrey Epstein files. It was a powerful moment when Bondi was asked to turn and apologize to Epstein's survivors. A Republican congressman is calling it a cover-up spanning decades. Here's our senior political correspondent, Rachel Scott.
Tonight, Attorney General Pam Bondi clashing with lawmakers from both parties over the Justice Department's investigation into sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
I am deeply sorry for what any victim has been through, especially as a result of that monster.
But Bondi did not interact with a group of Epstein's victims sitting just a few rows behind her.
Please raise your hands if you have still not been able to meet with this Department of Justice. Please know for the record that every single survivor has raised their hand.
Bondi declined to apologize to the woman for the DOJ's initial failure to redact all victims' names from the documents released.
It is about you taking responsibility for your Department of Justice and the harm that it has done to the survivors who are standing right behind you and are waiting for you to turn to them and apologize.
But he doesn't.
Republican Congressman Thomas Massey pressing Bondi on why the DOJ did initially redact the names of some powerful men.
Within 40 minutes, Wexner's name was added back.
Within 40 minutes of me catching you red-handed.
There was one redaction out of over 4,700, and we invited you in. This guy has Trump derangement syndrome. He needs to get, you're a failed politician.
Democrats asking about President Trump's Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, who recently claimed he had nothing to do with Epstein, calling him gross. Just 24 hours ago, Lutnick telling Congress he had in fact visited Epstein's private island with his wife and children in 2012, well after Epstein was convicted of sex crimes. That visit was revealed in the DOJ documents.
Has the Justice Department asked Secretary Lutnick about his ties to Epstein?
Secretary Lutnick has addressed those ties himself.
But the Congresswoman pressing Bondi, the nation's chief law enforcement officer.
The American people have a right to know the answers to this. These are senior officials in the Trump administration. This is not a game, Secretary.
I'm Attorney General.
My apologies, I couldn't tell.
Lawmakers asking why Epstein's accomplice, convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell, was transferred to a minimum security prison known as Club Fed just days after she met with the Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, who used to be the president's personal lawyer.
Does a convicted sex offender like Ghislaine Maxwell deserve special treatment and privileges in prison? Yes or no?
Let me be crystal clear on this. No.
Quite the exchanges there. Rachel Scott joins us now. So, Rachel, what more can you tell us about Ghislaine Maxwell and her request for clemency?
Well, Lindsay, Maxwell has made it crystal clear that she would be willing to talk to lawmakers, but she wants President Trump to grant her clemency first. She was deposed behind closed doors. She spoke to lawmakers only through her lawyer during a deposition earlier this week in the House, but she refused to answer any questions until she says President Trump grants her clemency. And right now, the president has not ruled that out. Lindsay.
Rachel Scott from the Capitol for us. Thanks so much, Rachel. For more now from the nation's capital, we're joined by Michigan Democratic Senator Elisa Slotkin. Thank you so much, Senator, for joining us. We certainly have a lot to get to. Let's start with the failed indictment by the DOJ. You, Senator Kelly, and of course 4 of your colleagues in the House, you spoke alongside Senator Kelly this afternoon. How did you first learn about the failed indictment, and what was your reaction?
Yeah, we actually heard about the grand jury being convened yesterday through the media. We were getting a lot of smoke about it and hearing about it. And then late last night, we heard that they took the potential indictment to the grand jury, and the grand jury refused to continue with the case and refused to move forward with criminal charges, which is always good. And then, I think it's such a strange thing for lawyers from the Department of Justice to go and fail. We really thought it was an important moment where 20 strangers upheld the law.
And as you've heard the saying that, you can indict a ham sandwich, so it really is significant that those 20 strangers decided to do that. You've had roughly 24 hours now to process it. This afternoon, you praised those ordinary anonymous Americans who were part of the grand jury. You said that you want to stay on the offense and keep your legal options open. What might be the next step here?
Yeah, well, first of all, we asked last week for the Attorney General and the U.S. Attorney to preserve all their records in case I decide to sue later on for my constitutional rights. And we sent again today. We'd like to see confirmation that with this failure yesterday, is this over? Can we call this done and put to bed? But I think all options are on the table. And I think what people are missing is that the president certainly has immunity for most things he does as president. That's what the Supreme Court decided. But those working for him do not. And if you're going to go ahead and just take orders, especially as a lawyer, and weaponize the judicial system against people just because the president is mad, is big mad, there should be some consequences to you as a professional. So that's why we're keeping all of our options open. Obviously, Senator Kelly has already gone on offense against Secretary Hegseth.
Senator Grassley, as you probably know, chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee, who it's important to say is a Republican, said today, I think our law enforcement people ought to be spending their time on making our community safe and going after real lawbreakers. Have you heard from any other Republican colleagues about this indictment and their reaction?
Yeah, I would say a handful of them have said similar things. Senator Tillis had a stronger statement, which I appreciate. And it just shouldn't be hard, especially as sitting senators, that if you make a 90-second video that just restates the law, you shouldn't be criminally prosecuted for that. And that goes for any side of the aisle, Democrat, Republican, Independent. It's free speech. It's as fundamental to America as anything. So I would like to hear from more of my colleagues. I'd certainly like to hear more from leadership.
Have you heard anything from Senator Thune?
I have not personally, no.
Do you have a specific message for President Trump tonight?
Everyone knows a year ago that the president was elected on things like affordability, making life affordable for the average American. Focus on that. You want to declare emergencies? You want to go after something with real vigor? Do that. Do what you say you were going to do. Stop just bending over backwards to go after your political enemies and acting like an authoritarian that we're used to seeing abroad. Just remember, or at least listen to the people in the streets right now who are calling out what you're doing. Focus on the things you said you gave a crap about.
Before you go, rapid fire, your reaction to President Trump threatening to block the opening of the new bridge between Detroit and Canada.
I can't understand. That was a Republican governor who signed that into law. It's the most bipartisan issue. It's a huge boon for the state of Michigan and for the United States on the busiest commercial border in the country. So the president has picked an issue that I think every single Michigander supports, and I cannot understand it other than his spite for the Canadians clearly is greater than his care and concern for the state of Michigan.
And what about a deal over DHS funding? Anything closer as far as a deal is concerned with Republicans?
I have heard from those negotiating that we haven't gotten a strong response about reforming ICE. And if you want to have our votes, you need to have ICE do the bare minimum of what our own police officers do in our own states and our own communities. We got to wear insignia. You got to have a judicial warrant to go inside someone's home. These aren't asking for the moon, but we just haven't seen a real strong response yet.
Senator Slotkin, we thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
There is newly released body camera video in the case of a U.S. citizen shot 5 times by a Border Patrol agent during President Trump's immigration crackdown in Chicago. Federal officials called her a domestic terrorist who attacked agents. But what does the video show? Our Alex Perez reports from Chicago.
Tonight, newly released body camera video appearing to contradict what federal agents said after shooting a U.S. citizen in Chicago. Agent Charles Exum seen driving on the morning of October 4th, his body camera off, but the cameras of other agents rolling. One heard saying, "It's time to get aggressive."
All right, it's time to get aggressive, get the out, because they're trying to box us in.
Marimar Martinez is seen following the convoy, later accused of ambushing federal agents and ramming their vehicle.
We're going to make contact and we're boxed in.
But the body camera video shows Agent Exum appearing to swerve to the left, colliding with Martinez. He's then seen exiting the vehicle, seconds later firing 5 shots.
Be advised, we've been struck, Get out.
The agent later heard telling other officers his team was not under fire.
I got 5 to 7 rounds off at her. We did not get shot at. We did the shooting.
These images showing bullet holes through the windshield of Martinez's car and seats. DHS claimed the agents opened fire in self-defense, alleging Martinez was armed with a semi-automatic weapon. But Martinez is never seen with one. A handgun was later found in her purse, for which her lawyer said she had a concealed carry permit.
Her handgun was in her purse, never taken out. She's the farthest thing from a domestic terrorist that anyone can be, and it's why we've continued to fight this. She's a U.S. citizen. She was born and raised here in Chicago. She has no criminal history, never even a parking ticket before this happened. And she's a Montessori school teacher who spends her days teaching kids of this district life skills. And on the day in question, she was on her way to donate clothes on a Saturday morning to her local church.
Martinez, who works as a teacher, testified before lawmakers last week, saying she still struggles with pain.
The mental scars will always be there as a reminder of the time my own government attempted to execute me, and when they fell, they chose to vilify me.
And Lindsay, federal prosecutors charged Martinez with assault, but those charges were later dropped. She intends to file a civil lawsuit. CBP says the agent involved was placed on administrative leave. Lindsay?
Alex, thank you. Authorities have identified the suspect accused of a horrific mass shooting in Canada. 8 people were killed, 25 wounded at a school, a nearby home in a rural British Columbia. Police say an 18-year-old female first opened fire at home, killing 2 relatives, then went to a local secondary school where she killed 6 more people. Authorities say she was not a student at the school. She had a prior history of mental health contact with police and was later found dead. Police are still investigating a motive. Actor James Van Der Beek has died following his public battle against colorectal cancer. The 48-year-old father of 6 was best known for his roles in Dawson's Creek and Varsity Blues. Here's our Trevor Law.
Tonight, tributes pouring in for 90s television and movie icon James Van Der Beek, who tragically passed away at 48 years old after a public battle with colorectal cancer. Van Der Beek helped define the coming-of-age drama for a generation as the heartfelt dreamer Dawson Leary on Dawson's Creek.
You can call me an eternal optimist. I have faith.
The cult classic sports drama Varsity Blues.
Let's be heroes.
Late today, his wife Kimberly saying, "Our beloved James David Van Der Beek passed peacefully this morning. He met his final days with courage, faith, and grace." The father of 6 had been diagnosed with stage 3 colorectal cancer in 2023, the next year revealing his diagnosis to People magazine.
The gastroenterologist said in his most pleasant bedside manner, it is cancer. And I think I went into shock.
He spent his final years away from Hollywood on a ranch in Texas, devoting his life to his family, his wife always by his side, thanking her in this tearful exchange with our Robin Roberts.
Your wife, Kim, she was there. You said that she has been your rock. How has she helped you?
She's, this is where I'm going to lose it. She's been amazing. She's really taught me what unconditional love is.
And he became a fierce advocate for early detection.
My message would be, first of all, get tested, get scanned. Wherever you're at, wherever that diagnosis is, there's always hope.
Our thanks to Trevor Ault. Coming up, the January jobs report beats expectations, what this means for you and the economy. Plus, Lindsey Vonn shares an update following the devastating crash that put an end to her Olympic journey. And T-Mobile is launching a new live translation feature. Those details coming up. Welcome back, everyone. The latest jobs report for January was released this month with much stronger hiring numbers than expected. This would be one of the stronger jobs reports in months if there are no major revisions later. We'll have more in a moment about what the new numbers mean for the economy. But first, let's take a look at what the report said by the numbers. 130,000 jobs were added in January, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. That's a big step up from the 48,000 jobs added in December after revisions. The unemployment rate was 4.3%, slightly lower than the previous month. 82,000 healthcare jobs were added for the month, the highest among industries. And notably, 5,000 jobs were added in manufacturing, which has been on a long-term decline. The report also included revisions to job numbers from last year, saying the U.S. added 181,000 jobs last year, a major revision downward. It also said that in November and December specifically, there were 17,000 fewer jobs than previously reported. Despite these gains, there were some areas where employment declined in January. One of the more notable sectors where this happened was in federal government employment. The report attributes the decline there to some employees being removed from federal payrolls after accepting deferred resignation offers last year. For more on what these job numbers mean, we're joined by Elizabeth Schulze. Thanks so much for coming on the show, Elizabeth. We mentioned last year's jobs market was weaker and that these January numbers were stronger than expected. What should people take away from this report about just how strong the job market could be this year?
Look, this is a positive sign, Lindsay, when you're thinking about the job market, which really did go through a rough patch in 2025. That 130,000 jobs added in January, double expectations, shows that there was a pickup in hiring, especially in some of the sectors that have been powering a lot of the job growth. So think of healthcare. We did also see a boost in construction jobs. Manufacturing jobs increased for the first time since November of 2024. So we did see these job gains. The unemployment rate going down also means that people who are looking for a job right now were able to find one, 4.3%. That is good news when we see the unemployment rate going in that direction. We want to see that going down. So overall, a strong start to the year. It's just one report, and it does come on the back of weak hiring in 2025, but definitely some encouraging signs for the jobs market here.
For sure. And interest rates have been a major sticking point recently, with President Trump calling for lower rates, even today when he reacted to the positive jobs report. What does this report mean for any potential rate cuts going forward?
Right. And this is where it gets a little bit tricky, because President Trump has been pushing for lower interest rates for months. And at the same time, this strong jobs report wouldn't suggest an environment where you would typically see lower interest rates. What we tend to see is the Fed would lower rates to support a weakening jobs market that would kind of boost spending in the economy. It would boost how much people can hire and spend. But right now, if jobs market is strong, that doesn't show that we would need a rate cut. So the president wants those lower rates. The Fed might not think so fast. A lot of the analysts who I've been talking to today, Lindsay, say this pretty much keeps the Federal Reserve on hold. They're not expecting an interest rate cut until the middle of this year. So when you're thinking about those borrowing costs, your credit card rates, your car loans, probably going to stay where they are, at least for the near future, Lindsay.
All right. The good with the bad. Elizabeth,
yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Coming up, rapper Ja Rule responds after being filmed in a heated argument with fellow rapper Tony Yayo on a recent flight. And we'll tell you the punishments the NBA handed down in that major brawl between the Charlotte Hornets and Detroit Pistons. Welcome back to Prime. Here's a look at the stories making headlines right now. The FBI has launched an extensive new search for 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie north of Tucson, Arizona. The search comes a day after the release of that chilling video showing a masked man outside the front door of Today host Savannah Guthrie's mother. A man was detained and questioned by local authorities, but was later released. Attorney General Pam Bondi battled with members of both parties over her handling of the Jeffrey Epstein investigation during a hearing today on Capitol Hill. Bondi was asked to apologize to a group of Epstein survivors sitting right behind her. She did not interact with the group and declined to apologize for the DOJ's initial failure to redact all the victims' names from the documents released. Video of a confrontation between rapper Ja Rule and two associates of his longtime antagonist, 50 Cent, on a recent Delta flight has been circulating online. Ja Rule can be heard repeatedly yelling, "What we doing?" as another man places his hands on the rapper's shoulders, appearing to try to calm him down. In a statement to ABC News, Ja Rule said in part that at the end of the day, I'm still a man and I'm going to stand my ground. I don't start trouble. And Lindsey Vonn is sharing a health update after her harrowing crash at the Milan Cortina Olympics. The 41-year-old skier wrote on Instagram that she had her third surgery today and is on the road to recovery. Coming up, R. Kelly survivor Roshona Landfair has a new book out that details her story of abuse at the hands of the R&B singer. She joins us next. A once anonymous R. Kelly survivor is reclaiming her voice in a new memoir. Roshona Landfair was known as Jane Doe when she testified at the disgraced R&B singer's federal trial back in 2022. She was the 14-year-old girl in the infamous sex video that ultimately led to racketeering and sex trafficking convictions and a 30-year prison sentence for Kelly. In her book, Who's Watching Shorty, Roshona recounts the decade-long abusive relationship with the man who called her his goddaughter, the man to whom she said she lost her virginity to, her voice, and her emotional well-being. Roshona Landfair joins us now. Roshona, thank you so much for speaking with us. For years, you hid your identity. You say that you were just known as the R. Kelly girl. Why did you feel that you needed to write this book?
I wrote this book for a few reasons. The first is it was only the true way of me to reclaim myself, my name, and who I really was as a person, and just to become out of the shadows of the R. Kelly girl and live in that orbit.
I want to read just a passage from your book in regard to your father. It reads in part, "I wish you had been suspicious enough to catch Robert in the act of making sneaky sexual gestures toward me. I wish you had noticed the confusion that lurked behind my smiles. Dad, I never doubted your love for me. I just wish that your love could have pushed past your fear and fought for me." You note in your book that no one in your world was trying to protect you from Robert Kelly. Your father passed away a few years ago. You had a strained relationship with your mother. She also read your book. What's your relationship like with her now, as well as the rest of your family?
First, rest in peace to my father. There were a lot of things in the studio that were very distracting. He was very focused on music, and when those things were happening, I was very scared and very fearful, and was hoping that he would just notice something or feel something that felt uncomfortable. My mom and I are a family. We love each other very dearly. We're in therapy and really trying to focus on our relationship.
When it comes to the infamous sex video where your identity was out there during the trial, you ask this very poignant question in your book. You say, "I wonder if my body hadn't been brown, would anyone outside of the jury have seen it exposed and abused? Would anyone even know my name?" Historically, as you know, black and brown girls have been systemically over-sexualized. If your body hadn't been brown, as you say, do you think that there would have been a different outcome?
Everybody deserves to be treated fairly, no matter the color of your skin. I do think things could have been handled differently and would have been handled differently if, it was a different situation. However, I was very exposed and tossed around in the public eye, and the sex tape really just took over my entire identity.
You're 41 years old now. You've, of course, experienced a lot of trauma, a lot of healing. You're now a mother of a 5-year-old. What would you want your 5-year-old to know going into those teenage years that you felt like you didn't know?
I grew up, a pop star. I was very popular, like overseas. I grew up around a lot of adults, and just really keeping control of that environment, keeping the environment kid-friendly, and just really understanding that adults, just because they're close family, they're not necessarily your friends, and just really staying in, good graces with childhood.
Who would you say you are today?
Again, I'm a mother, I'm a mentor, I'm still a work in progress, I'm still healing. The purpose of this book, again, was just to restore myself and reclaim my name, and just to give people hope that have suffered trauma in silence, and just giving them a voice and inspiring them to speak up.
You said that your passion is to now help those who have gone through similar experiences. You're the founder of Project Refine, a mentor program for young women. Tell us about the organization and how it's helped you heal.
So Project Refine just gives me the opportunity to turn my pain into purpose. I really focus on younger girls, single moms, and just really pouring into their lives and changing their outcomes of who they become, and just really just trying to be the best person I can be through a light of other people.
Roshona Landfair, we thank you so much for sharing your story. The book, Who's Watching Shorty? Reclaiming Myself from the Shame of R. Kelly's Abuse, is available now. R. Kelly's legal team has provided a statement. It reads, Mr. Kelly has not seen the memoir, therefore he cannot comment on any specific allegation. The experience of the Chicago federal trial already demonstrated that memoirs and documentaries often contain information that proves to be false. This is how my office got Mr. Kelly's business manager, Daryl McDavid, exonerated on all charges. Nonetheless, Mr. Kelly does not wish to engage in any kind of reputation that would in any way limit the financial success of Ms. Landfair's memoir. She was thrust into the public eye against her will at an early age by unscrupulous persons intent on assassinating the reputation of Mr. Kelly. She did not deserve that or the years of torment that followed from it. Therefore, if there is a financial benefit Ms. Landfair can get now by using Mr. Kelly's name in a book, he wants her to have it. He wishes her success and peace at all levels. Coming up, have you ever needed real-time translation on a phone call? T-Mobile has a solution. And basketball legend Julius Erving, a.k.a. Dr. J, joins us to talk about the new Prime documentary he executive produced, Soul Power, how the American Basketball Association shaped the NBA. A rare stop driving alert by a major automaker. The punishments are in after that massive NBA brawl, and the Seahawks soak in their Super Bowl win. These stories and more in tonight's rundown. Heineken says it plans to accelerate productivity to unlock significant savings by reducing 5,000 to 6,000 roles over the next 2 years following weaker beer sales in 2025. The eventual cuts would account for up to 7% of its total workforce. The company's outgoing CEO told CNBC earlier AI is partially to blame for the future layoffs. The parent company of Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram vehicles has issued a do not drive warning for vehicles with unrepaired Takata airbag recall notices. The order affects 10 models sold in the U.S., including some Dodge Rams, Jeep Wranglers, and Chryslers. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration said that it had documented 28 deaths in the U.S. from Takata airbags that have exploded. The regulatory agency says at least 400 people have been injured by exploding Takata airbags. T-Mobile has announced starting in the spring, customers will be able to have their phone calls translated. Live translation uses artificial intelligence to translate voices into 50 different languages, allowing people to communicate in real time. The translation technology is built into the network, so you don't need a specific phone or app to use live translation. T-Mobile says it will not save any recordings or transcripts of the translated calls. Free beta testing for the service begins today. The Recording Academy announced that they will add 14 new songs and albums to the Grammy Hall of Fame. This year's inducted recordings span nearly a century of recorded music and range from Tupac's All Eyes on Me to Janet Jackson's Rhythm Nation, 1814 to Radiohead's OK Computer. The Academy says they pick the music based on their qualitative or historical significance, and the recordings must be at least 25 years old. 4 NBA players were suspended by the league after a fight broke out during a game Monday night. Tensions reached a tipping point in the Detroit Pistons win over the Charlotte Hornets when the Pistons center Jalen Duren drove to the basket and was fouled. He then exchanged words with the Hornets' Moussa Diabate, who just fouled him. The two butted heads, but Duren then appeared to strike Diabate in the face. The ensuing melee ensnared more players and multiple ejections soon followed. The Pistons went on to win the game by 6 points. The Seattle Seahawks are taking a well-deserved victory lap after beating the New England Patriots in a 29-13 victory at the Super Bowl. Police anticipated as many as 1 million people would attend the championship parade. And the city streets were in full party mode as deafening cheers filled downtown. Some players walked the parade route to get up close and personal with fans, shaking hands and exchanging words as confetti swirls in the air above a sea of blue and green. He's one of the greatest basketball players to ever grace the game, revolutionizing the sport with his high-flying dunks and iconic scoop reverse layups. Julius Dr. J. Irving helped legitimize the American Basketball Association. A 3-time MVP in the ABA, Dr. J ended up winning 2 ABA championships with the New York Nets before becoming a legendary Philadelphia 76er and capturing a ring in the NBA. Today, he is executive producing the new Amazon Prime documentary Soul Power, which explores the American Basketball Association. Earlier, I had a chance to sit down with him, but first, let's take a look at a clip from the documentary.
Pro basketball's most exciting new idea.
It was way ahead of its time.
Changed the history of the league. The NBA, they weren't ready for us, man.
Shoot, we better put on a show.
The ABA emphasized innovation.
It was all about doing things the NBA wasn't going to do.
Dr. J, the one, the only, thank you so much for being here, sir.
My pleasure.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
All right, so this documentary really takes a deep dive into the ABA and how revolutionary it was. How would you say it was most different from the NBA at that time?
Well, up-tempo. NBA had the Celtics. They ran. Most of the other teams didn't run. They played the brown ball basketball, which we used to call it that, just take a poke at them. And they stayed on the ground most of the time and, moved it around like a train running around a track. And, the ABA had wings. We were playing above the rim, floaters, lob passes, three-point shots. And there was a difference, I think, in terms of fan appeal. And this ball right here, you know, the red, white, and blue ball, you know, spinning in sideways or spinning in rhythm circles or whatever was an attraction. And, you know, we attracted adults, we attracted middle-aged, we attracted little kids. So I think we were moving in on their territory during that time.
Tell us what it was about the culture of the ABA that it became this place for creativity and experimentation.
I think what was allowed was the coaches there. You know, some of these are guys who are now coaching in the ABA and they didn't coach in the NBA. Some guys played in the NBA, didn't fulfill those roles for assistant coaches, and so they were a little more open-minded.
What was your initial reaction when you heard that some of the teams of the ABA were going to merge with the NBA?
I had mixed emotions about it. You know, I was so endeared to the ABA and all of its brothers, you know, one for all and all for one. Mm-hmm. I felt if all 7 teams didn't go in, then none of them should go in. And as it turned out, 4 teams went in.
What do you think that the ABA lost as a result of that merger, those 4 teams?
Well, the 3 teams that didn't go in, and you know, Kentucky was a champion in the ABA, and you know, they didn't go in, so it's like.
But the style, the fun, the entertainment, did you feel that that was diminished?
I think that was brought over into the
NBA.
Into the NBA. David Thompson, George Gervin, myself, we brought our style of basketball to the NBA.
What do you think about the experimentation that's taking place in the NBA now? NBA Cup, they've made different changes with regard to the All-Star game format.
Yeah.
Are you happy to see that? You like the changes?
I think the league is struggling to find the happy place. You know, where the players are satisfied, the organizations are satisfied, the fans are satisfied, not only fans domestically, but internationally. The NBA has a global footprint, and I think more than half of the top 25 players are international players. And I think domestically, we've lost some of that. I think some of the incentive for players is just to make money and, you know, use the load management excuse when they don't want to play, and get a little injury, you know, sulk and, you know, have somebody lick the wounds for them, or whatever. So it didn't used to be like that. It was always, hey, I want to bust some butt when I go out there, and I want to be the best in the world, and, you know, I want to surpass the person who was before me.
The spirit of competition.
Absolutely.
Dr. J, we thank you
it's my pleasure.
So much for your time. Really appreciate it. You can watch Soul Power on Amazon Prime starting February 12th. And that is our show for this hour. I'm Lindsay Davis. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thanks so much for streaming with us. Have a great night.